Quamon Fowler, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. Appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being willing to do this. I know you're busy. This quarantine has got us all kind of at home and things, but I think you thrive in that situation. I mean, I'm looking at your studio there,
Yeah.
and it looks like you've probably been doubling down on things that you're working on. I've been checking out a lot of additional content. I mean, you're always putting stuff out, but I've been checking out a lot of additional content that you've been giving us over the last few weeks, which I definitely appreciate. I know that you know uh, folks that are watching this, we're going to give them an opportunity uh, to know how to get in touch with you. We'll get all your information. It'll be in the description of this video.
Okay. Cool.
So, come on, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up, and what your childhood was like.
Well, I am from Fort Worth, Texas, and born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. And uh, let's say, what's so? My childhood was like what it was like. I don't know. I grew up in the what we call, I guess, the hood. So it wasn't that bad, but it was the hood. Typical type of upbringing. You parents let you out play outside, and you had to come in when the light pole comes on at night. And so but did a lot of playing basketball when I was younger. And my older brother, he's like almost 11 years older than me. He played basketball, so I kind of took after that, and was doing the typical everyday things that young boys usually do: riding bikes, playing basketball. And when we moved from what they call the south side of Fort Worth, we moved to um, uh, I guess a better area. And from there, that's when I kind of got into music. Eventually, really, no, I think I got into music when I was when we lived on the south side. I started playing violin first in the fifth grade, and so, but for some reason, music, it was just very appealing um, and striking to me. My dad didn't play an instrument. My mom, she sang in the choir, and then she also, we had an organ in the house, so she would play that sometimes. So she knew how to play, and so I just took a liking to music, and so it kind of was something that I just kind of ran with. Um, in terms of, I guess, part of the you know the challenge that I had to come that I came up with is being visually impaired. So um, there were there were always things that I had to do as a child to go see my, what you call it, vocational counselor coming up and all of that, and I had to get the bigger books and things, you know, and, as a kid, to be able to read the assignments, and I had to have somebody help me with writing down what was on the overhead projector. So that was a part of my upbringing. But at the same time, when I got a hold of music, it was something that was, I guess, easy, and I didn't know how quick I was picking up stuff and memorizing stuff because it was just instinctual. But I just remember, a lot of the other musicians, when we was in orchestra, I could read, and I could read the parts and everything, but I just would remember them. So I memorized a lot of the stuff, and so but I didn't realize how much that was, I guess, abnormal until other folk would tell me, you know. But it was just one of those things when you have one area that's weak, you know, another area you compensate for that weakness. So, but pretty much, um, you know, that's what I did coming up fifth grade. Then seventh grade, I started playing saxophone, and I I guess just kept on exploring. I don't know where you want me to stop.
No, I mean, I think think all of that is great. You know, I in doing these interviews, uh, I'm always interested in, you know, kind of what, you know, just the general information about upbringing, and then uh, why music. You know, like what was it about music? Maybe some mentors that you had early on. Um, you were talking about being visually impaired. Um, what are some of the things that you had to do with respect to music, uh, you know, to be able to sort of balance that?
Mhm. uh, well, I guess the biggest thing when you're in a band and you have to read parts, it would be funny because I would listen to what the person next to me would be playing, and then when you're in rehearsal, you got start and stop. And so a lot of times I get some of it, but then I'd have to listen to see what they played, and then I just remember that, and I would piece things together, and before you know it, I would have the whole thing memorized. And so I remember, uh, a lot of times in high school, of course, you had to remember the marching band stuff. So I would remember all of that and practice it over and over. And when it came to orchestra, in terms of the band, the classical concert band, I would be learning the parts and then messing around, improvising in between. So I was always practicing, and I think just being fascinated with music, and I ended up, I was always recording too. And it was just something that I did. Even when I would play basketball, I would record our sessions in the backyard because my dad had the backyard paved with cement, and he put a basketball goal back there. So all the neighborhood kids would come over to our house and we play ball. But I would set my tripod up in the back and like video us playing, and then I would get those tapes and go inside, and I would put one tape in to play it from TV, and I use another camera to record me commentating on what we did. And so I would put it on slow motion. So if somebody's about to dunk or something, he's going up for the dunk, and I just talk through it. So I'll make these videos, and and whether it be basketball or even music, and I was always recording. When I would play music, I would always have some type of recording device. And anybody who knows me throughout my life, they'll tell you the same thing. I was always recording everything. And what I would do at the end of the day, I would get those tapes and I just sit and watch them. I sit and or listen to them, and that's just how I developed. Like even when I still got a box in here. This, in where I live now, I still got a box of tapes. And a couple of years back, my pastor had an old tape. Well, he had a tape player that had a USB connection on it, so you could put it right into into some software and then bounce it. So funny thing, this just reminded me of this. Walter Smith, tenor player.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So back in high school, we would always run into each other like for all region jazz band. Coming up, I was hearing about him like one year. I think it's my 12th grade year. I won first chair jazz saxophone for our in the state, and he was second chair. And so, I was kind of cocky. I thought I was all that. And we went to rehearse in San Antonio, and I heard him. I think it was that time. Yeah. Well, maybe actually I knew him before because we would run into each other because we did this other competition called AXO, NAACP AXO. It was, but make a long story short, I was just saying I ran into him uh, uh, later, like for IAJE. It's called Gen Conference now. But back then, back in high school, it was a competition that we did, and I had my tape player and I recorded Walter doing his performance. And so I saw him, 2, 3 years ago. And so, because he had played for the conference. And so he came off stage and I had my phone. I had the audio file on my phone. And so I just went up to him. I was like, "What's up, man?" And I just played this. And he was listening. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Man, what are you?" He's like, "How in the world?" It just blew him away because it was like from 1998, a performance of him playing Autumn Leaves, you know. So it was a good one. It was funny. But yeah, I also got Keon Harold on trumpet, you know, a lot, I got a lot of guys who are probably well known now. I got like tape recordings of those cats. But that's why I always wanted to record because you never know what monumental moment you're about to experience when you play, or somebody plays.
Yeah, recording is for me also has been a regular part of my development. And the story that I tell my students all the time is it's about Coltrane. And remember, so Coltrane was playing with Miles, and he got kicked out of the band. And for 2 years, he was playing with Monk, and he also signed a record contract with Prestige.
Mm-hmm.
And I acquired years ago uh, a box set, which was all of the Prestige stuff from that 2 year time period. It's 16 CDs. Now, most of those projects were projects in his name,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized by seeing that one of the key factors in the contract that he signed, and one of the main reasons why he signed it, is because he could record as much as he wanted to. And I think he knew that the more he could hear himself back, the better he would be. He'd have more to critique, and it could accelerate his development.
Yeah.
And so if it's good enough for Coltrane, it's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. And the other thing is, can you imagine how many recordings he would have if he had the kind of devices that we have now, the kind of quality, portability, the devices. There's I think it's from the same time period. I'm pretty sure it is. Um, that Thelonious Monk Live at the Five Spot
Mm-hmm.
record, and I think Coltrane's wife had brought in some recording device, um, and recorded that gig, and it's all like clanking glasses and people talking and stuff, and it's hard to hear what's going on, but that's some of the greatest Coltrane playing,
Wow.
especially on Trinkle Tinkle. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, man, I just love documenting things. And the thing that is so phenomenal, when my dad passed away in 2012, my sister, I was talking with my sister, and she plays bass too. She's She's older than me. Um, but anyway, she was telling me about how dad, uh, when he would go off, because he was a truck driver, and he would go off. This was before they had video cameras or something, because he would take pictures and he would record himself on tape or something, and he would send that back to them. And so they would look at the pictures and hear him on tape talking about the different places that he was going. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing. So when the video camera, I guess, came around, he got a big video camera. And he would just use the video camera when, for my birthday parties and for, I used to bowl. So he would videotape the bowling and going to family reunions. He would video and kind of commentary over everything. And so I didn't realize how much I got all that, from my dad. He kind of set that all up for me.
Yeah, likewise, my dad, he had, video cameras. Of course, my dad was he was a musician, and he had his own record company and equipment and stuff. So, in addition to the videography that he regularly was doing, like every holiday season, every big moment, most of my performances and stuff when I was a kid, all of that stuff. In addition to that, um, I got to have, interaction with, the latest and greatest, studio gear. And as I got older, the technology kept changing, till when, I was recording, computer-based stuff like, everybody does now. It's pretty much computer-based. And it gave me a different perspective on how the equipment works, the virtual versions of the equipment, how that corresponds to the real stuff. If you actually had to like use a real mixing board and actually patch cables and like use actual effects units like a reverb unit or a DBX unit or like a compressor, and getting the signal in and out, and and all everything that has to happen so that you get a sound and that the unit is working correctly. It makes it so that it's much easier when I'm looking at virtual versions, of software, and imagining how that actually works.
Right, right.
But yeah. But I think I totally get the documenting stuff, recording. Also, I think from my dad.
Hmm. Yeah, and before YouTube, um, when I would see jazz performances that would come on PBS, like back then they used to show a lot of Lincoln Center stuff, and they would show, um, I guess on KERA PBS, they would show sometimes like live at Newport Jazz Festival. I would see James Carter and Branford Marsalis. I ended up buying some videos too. Um, so I remember that one with Branford's group when he had Kenny Kirkland, Bob Hurst, and Louis Nash. Stepien Faith, or so I think it was one of the tunes on there. But I would watch that video like religiously, just over and over.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those things. I just I just wanted to do that. I enjoyed the sound. I just enjoyed the integrity of the music, and I just had to get whatever I can. And my dad used to take me to a bookstore called Borders Books and Music, and it was cool because they had a piano in there, and they would have live performances in there. And I remember going and checking out some of the local guys. A friend of mine, Arlington Jones, piano player, met him there, and then I ended up sitting in with them, and then I ended up getting gigs there. So I would play there. The cool thing about it, they would give us a voucher. They wouldn't pay us with money, but they would give us like $100 voucher or whatever for you to get a bunch of CDs. So that's how I was able to get my music collection up, because I would play there and be able to get all the stuff. But it was so exciting back then, when you could get a physical CDs and look in the, look through the aisles and see, get to choose between Ornette Cobb and Dexter Gordon over here and John Coltrane and Sonny Stitt, and flip through and just see who's got albums. Those were the days. That was good. You know.
Yeah,
Now,
so it seems like so in my life I never wanted to do anything professionally but play music. That was I don't feel like there was ever a time like I feel like it totally chose me. Like I just I didn't really have a choice. It was like I was already off to the races, and that was the destination, and it always was that way. Do you feel that way?
uh, yeah, yeah, I feel that way. I think with my upbringing, coming up in church, and having my dad was always sharing scriptures with me, and my mom had me in church. So that really married two, um, well, I guess two things together, like music and then spirituality,
Right.
from a biblical standpoint. So, and then a teacher that I had later, Rochella Parks, Washington now, she kind of was, when I was like 14, she would always, tell me, when you play from your heart, your soul, you be a preacher. When you play, you spreading your message. So I always viewed music as like a ministry, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was like a call. And I remember when I was younger, like you mentioned, John Coltrane, and John Coltrane had that. He had that seriousness and dedication and that spiritual, uh, you know, uh, what do you call it? Upbringing or perspective, where he
Yep.
was always reaching. And
Yep.
so I kind of took a liking to that. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, as well. And so, but, over time, as you grow older, and, the Lord kind of showed me, just like the saxophone. The saxophone is an instrument that I use to share my voice through. When I play the saxophone, they really hear me. And so I got this epitome that, just the same way as I use the saxophone, God was showing me, I want to use you for my glory. And that
Mm-hmm.
really changed my perspective. I mean, it just made it that much bigger. And then this is kind of what led me to later write my book called The Christian Musician, Learn What Your Real Gift Is and How to Succeed with and Beyond Music. So when you get married, or when you want to get married, and then you want kids and want to take care of kids, you really have to learn, okay, how can I make money with this? This is a smooth transition. So, but what I started seeing that I needed to do, I was passionate about music, but the way that I wanted to do music, a lot of times in our commercial environments, or um, I guess the things that are most accessible to us, a lot of times the type of music is not the type of music that I would want to play, and even some environments are probably not the best, or the intentions behind, the environments or the music, it's not um, the type of things that I wanted to do. I did it and played in different places, but it was always a conviction that was always a little deeper than the average musician that I would be around. And so it's just one of those things. Once it's in your heart, you really got to seek those things out and really see what is it that God really wants you to do. And so that's when I started learning about, or looking into really monetizing your your music, or more so taking what you have and like this is how I look at it. Like, I got so many analogies basically from scripture. One of the ones was when Jesus, when the disciples were with Jesus, and all of the 5,000 came and they was needing to be fed, and the disciples said, all we have is 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And Jesus was like, bring me what you have. And they brought what they had to Jesus, and he multiplied it and was able to feed the 5,000 plus have some left over. And so I got something from that. So basically, take what you have, give it to the Lord, and then watch him multiply it, you know.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I looked at that. I had challenges where I couldn't go out and work a normal job like everybody else could. I spent all this time practicing and seeking out music. This was like in my 20s, early 20s, when I started kind of I would say, early 20s when I started thinking about all of this stuff. And so he was like, okay, another scripture says, Proverbs 16:3, commit thy works unto the Lord and your thoughts will be established, you know. And it's another scripture to talk about, he will bless the works of your hands. And so I was taking all of these scriptures and praying and meditating and thinking about what can I do to use what I have in order to bring an increase, so that I don't have to be dependent upon just playing gigs. And so the idea, I was practicing at my mom's house one time, and then it just came, you need to get paid for practicing. It's like, get paid for practicing. And so that led to me starting, at the time, Musician Web Shed, which later turned into Jazz Web Shed. And so I created a platform where musicians could subscribe to it and have access to different things that I would be practicing on. And so it really grew pretty good, pretty quick. I mean, it was almost to like $1,000 a month, when I was first getting going. And I was creating videos, putting them in the site. I was doing like what you're doing. I was doing interviews with cats. I was doing live streams. I was live streaming rehearsals. I was just getting content, putting it in there, and just, just doing as much as I could, because I wanted to create income, in addition to the gigs that I had going. And so I also looked at it where, I have one audience of people who enjoy my music. They just want to, get my songs or listen to me play. And then you got people who are interested in my teaching. They want to know how I play and some of the ideas that I work on in order to be able to do what I do. So I started looking at, okay, underneath these categories, I need to have, for performance, I need to have, okay, gigs, I need to do CDs, MP3s, flash drives. Then over here for teaching, I could do live one-on-one, I could do group classes, I could have a membership site. I would just list different products and services that I could offer under each category. And then I would just go out and do it. I put out, now I have 7 CDs, and I have, Jazz Web Shed YouTube channel, and I have the Texas Tenor music academy, so people can join the music academy. I do Skype lessons. I've done online performances, um, and I monetize. I have my YouTube channel monetized. So all of those things are the result of how, what was impressed upon me. Uh, like, man, is it 20? Yeah, 20 years ago. Wow.
Time flies, right? Now it seems like along your journey, um, maybe you discovered some of the stuff that I was doing online, and then you got in touch with me, and that's kind of how we met, um, and I had some really cool conversations, some deep conversations, and then I kept in touch with you, kept track of you, and then a few years ago I had you. You were the headliner for the Ohio State Jazz Festival, and that was during my sabbatical. So you also taught my students. My studio for what was it? I think it was like a 3 week residency, um, and then we got to hang more. And then we've been trying to do some other videos and other projects we're trying to collaborate on. So everyone, look out for that stuff. As we keep collaborating and getting some more content out there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So what projects have you worked on? I mean, you talked about having some, have CDs out and things, but these projects could be bands that you've played with, and what was your favorite? What was your favorite situation, project, or band that you played in?
Well, I would have to say my boys in DC. One of the, um, I guess, yeah, I guess the pivot points in my career was when I got a chance to go to DC a lot because I was doing programs with, the late, um, man, it was a lot of. So the first one was with Billy Taylor. I did Jazz in the New Generation with him, and then man, why am I going blank? I'm going blank. I can't believe that. I see his face. Nathan Davis. Nathan Davis. He just passed away. But anyway, I would do the Betty Carter Jazz Ahead program, and I was always going to DC. So I met Quincy Phillips, drummer from Baltimore, and I met Alan Johnson from DC, Chris Fun, bass player, and I was going up there and inspired DeAndre Schaefer, another trumpet player that I met through Betty Carter. I just love these guys because we were kindred spirits because these guys came up in church, plus they could swing. And we were listening to all the same stuff. And, when we would play, we would have these strong connections. And I met Tim from going up there, Tim Green. And so we had so much fun. And I recorded my album, A Soul's Cry, and then I recorded Prevail with them, and then I also did Live and Uncut. I took my Our River recorder. We used to play at Bohemian Caverns, and I would take it. I put it right on the stand in front of me, and I recorded the whole gig. And I got home, and it was so killing. I was like, man, this got to be a project. So I called it Quamon Fowler Live and Uncut. So in terms of the the bands, like it was that group. Um, I mean, that we did a lot, and even I have a lot of recordings even on my hard drive still that from videos and different things at Cafe Nema and like I said, Bohemian Caverns. These places don't exist anymore. But we had so much fun, and we got into so much music. It was organic, and it was just a strong connection. So I would say that uh, over the course of a time when I was going back and forth to DC um, in the mid 2000s, that to late 2000s, that was like, fun experiences.
Yeah, the recording gigs, recording everything, and now videoing everything, like every performance, every you know meaningful interaction, and everything, trying to get as much content as possible because you never know when you're going to use that, or if you can use it, or what you're going to have. But one thing's for sure is if you don't record, you're not going to capture anything. You're going to miss out.
Yeah.
And I did a similar thing. I had a see, what was I using? It was a mini disc recorder that years ago I was using to record like everything, like all the time. And I had a lot of gigs at this particular restaurant in that did live music in Kalamazoo called 211, and I had regular gigs there for about 5 years. So lots and lots of gigs, and once a month the budget was big on Friday, so I could bring in guest artists. So all that stuff I have, in addition to my band that was all Kalamazoo guys at
Yeah.
that time. I'd bring in people like Rodney Whitaker. I brought in Vincent Chandler. I brought in um, Bill the Buddha Dickens, the great bass player. So I was able to bring in artists like that, and uh, I recorded everything. So actually, one of my projects, I have studio projects that I put out, but one of my projects was a live project called Nigga Thunder Live, Volume One. So I guess I have to do Volume Two sometime. It's been
Yeah.
several years since I did that,
Right.
but same kind of idea. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
and so just record. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not losing anything. You just put it's. I know it's another thing on the to do list, to have to bring this stuff. But hey, if you just get used to bringing this stuff and recording, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. You remind me of some videos in particular, some of the earlier videos that I recorded and I put up on YouTube. And I would see musicians when I would go certain places, like, man, that video that you put up, you playing Autumn Leaves on Iwi was killing. I've watched that like thousand times. And then somebody's like, that video with you and Tim and Alan, y'all played Humpty Dumpty, and man, that's so killing. So they could a lot of these musicians they build their vocabulary on these
Yeah.
videos, and they would have never had that opportunity if we didn't record it and put it out.
Yeah, I did this, and this was on Ohio State campus, for an event someone asked me to play, and I got it in my head that I wanted to do a solo saxophone thing. I had been listening to that Michael Brecker solo saxophone gig he did,
Yeah.
like it was like in Germany or something.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I was like, man, I want to do a solo saxophone thing, and I was thinking about like too trying to develop further, like playing um, um, what am I saying? Uh, cadenzas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so let me go on and do this. So I worked up Autumn Leaves, and I had kind of a skeleton of it, and I performed it at this event. It was a pretty big event, and my wife was out in the audience, and I asked her to record. We had a video camera, and that thing has been viewed thousands and thousands of times on my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and someone transcribed it.
Yeah.
And they're selling transcription. So yeah, you never know what is going to float someone's boat. You never know. And sometimes I found this to be somewhat often. It is difficult for an artist to evaluate the significance of their art.
Mm.
You know, it's very difficult, and especially folks that I think are um, interested in, improvement. Like constantly, they're working on stuff and they're trying to make themselves better. It's easy to get sort of um, so focused on the things that we don't like about what happened,
Yeah.
rather than being able to, uh, like someone else would be able to, like really appreciate the performance for what it was. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I had a student. Well, he used to be a student. He's a player now, but he hit me up yesterday. The other day, he was just saying, "Man, there's a thread going where we're all trying to find this video of you playing. What was it? This Christmas with Bobby Sparks and a drummer that passed away, Lamar Gully." And he said, "Man, that was so killing. Can you find it?" And I ended up erasing it some type of way, so it wasn't up on YouTube anymore. And so, and he said, "Man, if you find that, you got like 7 guys that would, want to get a hold to it." And I was like, "Okay." And but he ended up some type of way. Somebody was able to get it, and so he sent it to me yesterday, and I went and I listened to it. And I was like, "Man, this ain't good." I'm listening to it. I don't like it, but they think it's so killing. And but you like you said, you never know what's gonna float somebody's boat.
um, so you talked about bands or projects. Um, what I want to try to get you to do is maybe reduce down to maybe um, an amazing moment or the most amazing moment that you experienced as a musician.
uh, I think it would go back to those times when we would play in DC with with Alan Johnson on keys, Chris Fun on bass, Quincy Phillips on drums, and even Tim Green on alto. And uh, we would play. I would switch to Iwi, and Tim would play with his pedals. We still got some of that stuff up, but those we would have gigs. I mean, and you could feel it. You could feel like everybody was in sync. It's like that zone moment where everybody's in the zone, and you could feel like this was something. It was something stronger going on because the love that we all had for the music and our roots all being similar, from like our belief spiritually to our belief musically and our styles, so we could go in and out from hard bop swing to into groove and more worship type stuff. So we would create songs, and you know how it is, at the end we would do vamps, and like we would go into something totally different. I remember one time it was so killing, man. And this is one of those things I gotta find. But we did um, Black Narcissus, a Joe Henderson tune, and we didn't know how we was gonna do it. And so it's like, okay, let's do Black Narcissus. How we gonna do it? So I got my Iwi, and I just start playing a groove. Like I just start playing, and then Quincy, he's like, okay, he start playing, boom. So he started this groove, and then Alan, he switched to like a real warm keyboard sound where he could get woo, like a really ethereal type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that was so killing. Everybody was just smiling. But it was like, we was just in that zone where anything could go anywhere at any point in time. So I would have to say, like, those moments were like the best. And me and Tim, we fed off of each other so well, you know. It wasn't like a thing where you got two saxophonists and we trying to cut each other. I mean, we was going for it, but it was like it was just love and brotherhood. It's like, man, because he's so fluent with playing changes. That's his thing. My thing is soul. So it was a good combination.
So I heard you talk about one of your teachers at least
Yeah.
growing up, but and this could be teachers, it could also be other artists. We talked about John Coltrane a little bit. Um, what musicians have been inspirational to you in your work?
Um, to start with, um, really, in the beginning, it was uh, um, well, if I go back, initially, Kenny G, Dave Kais, um, Najee, um, and those type of guys to start with. And then once I got teachers, they would turn me on to the straight ahead guys. And uh, I think I've got. Let me do it like this. I'm trying to trace the growth. One time, this is what happened by accident. I was in Sound Warehouse and my brother was with me. He took me to Sound's Warehouse, and so I saw a light skinned brother with a saxophone with the kind of a box, and I was like, that looked pretty cool. Let me check that out. It was Joshua Redman's Wish. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
And so I got that tape. I put it in. I think the first tune was like Moose the Mooch. And then the swing, it was just no keys, just bass, drums, and guitar and sax. And I was listening to it. And I was like, what is this? I was like, man, I don't like that kind of jazz. I don't know about that. And so I just couldn't understand what was going on. And then some type of way I got a hold to John Coltrane's ballads. And I would listen to that when I was a kid, and I could understand that. And so it was a cross between listening to that, and then once I was working with my teacher, I did the song Yardbird Suite, like when I was 14, and did this and won this competition. So during that time, I had to research Charlie Parker, of course, and then Sonny Rollins, and I ended up taking ideas from St. Thomas to put to an intro that I connected into Yardbird Suite for this competition. And so Joshua Redman had this real phenomenal version of St. Thomas that he did before he went into the melody with the whole band. And so I went and learned a lot of that. And then that kind of started connecting the dots with more straight ahead stuff, because before I was just used to saxophonists playing the melody and being able to sing along with it. And then once you depart and get into all of the improvisation and stuff, I didn't have a connection to it. But once I started learning what Joshua was doing on St. Thomas, and then I started listening to Sonny Rollins, St. Thomas, and I learned his stuff. I would just learn that stuff just because it sounded cool, even though I didn't know what was going on. But you know how it is. Once you start digging into jazz, there's so much of a catalog and archive of stuff that you can get into. And I even tell my students now, when you learn a song, find you the song, find you recordings of that one song of different artists playing it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So that really just opened up the floodgates.
yeah. So you talked a little bit about some of your influences, and you mentioned uh, if it was full blown transcription or not. You're learning things by ear from artists, that you're influenced by. Um, so when I was a kid, I had a lot of time to practice, and the older I've gotten and the more responsibility I have, the less time I have to practice.
Right.
Um, but also, um, uh, I'm at a different place in my musicianship now than I was when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
So I don't tend to even if I had the same amount of time, I wouldn't practice the same things
Yeah.
because I'm in a different place.
Right.
My question to you is about what do you practice, and what is your sort of approach to dealing with, because I know you got two kids and a wife. I understand that, and so so what's your approach to maximizing your time when you're in the practice room?
Well, uh, it's a cool thing that I was able to marry my my work with what I enjoy. So when I am working with students, um, a lot of times some of the stuff that I show them, I practice. Um, and then, I use YouTube. Like I have my shirt in the shed. So I've figured out if I'm a practice, I might as well use it as an opportunity to market and, make a little money and build my YouTube channel because, I monetize my YouTube channel. So I'm thinking, how can I get value out of my time? I can practice myself and not have the video going, but I thought it'd be a better use of my time, practice and inspire somebody, and then it'll lead to a lesson down the road, or somebody would join the academy because of it. Um, so what in terms of specifically what I practice, I'm thinking more so um, here lately, like creating tracks in a format that the everyday listener or someone who's not musically um, inclined or somebody who's not a musically educated. I'm trying to create music that feels good and that's singable, and so that's where I've been at here lately. And I've always kind of done that. I've released on my albums things that were kind of smooth, but had I guess the tradition of straight ahead is in there, or I would do a straight ahead tune and then I do like a groove tune, and so that's just been my experience coming up in church and playing gospel and then playing straight ahead and playing groove oriented stuff. So it's all in there. It's just our experience as African Americans. We like the groove, we like the beat, we like the bass, but we like the intellectual challenge and the depth of straight ahead jazz. So I marry the two. So with that said, I've found a sweet spot in my language because I can play um, and be have vocabulary, but I can also play and not use as much vocabulary and more focus and focus more on being lyrical. And so with that said, like these tracks that might have two chords or four chords that are looped, I'm finding a sweet spot to be able to be lyrical and work on like changes of two chords that are close. Like what I've been working on here lately, and this was a track that a friend of mine had sent me. It was just a B major going to a B flat minor. And so I was just working on being lyrical over that and trying to play things that are singable, you know. And so that's been what I've been focusing on, just trying to communicate um, the being lyrical and being having having vocabulary that's not just pentatonic. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Thank you for that. You know, one thing that is not uh, necessarily the case is when you ask someone that can play, what are you practicing, for them to give you an answer that actually has substance to it and reflects, you know,
Yeah.
actually suggests that they're not just trying to sort of hide from
Right.
from the intention of the question. So
Right.
I appreciate your willingness to tell us what you're actually right now, what you're working on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's very cool. Um, so so how do you see yourself in the future? What goals do you have? What unfinished projects, and even not necessarily related to music, uh, but maybe areas of personal growth?
Yeah. Okay. So like the cool thing, um, the cool thing about this life, we go through seasons where we have ideas initially, and then we go into, trying to manifest those ideas. But then once we're in the middle of manifesting those ideas, or we've learned new things and our perspective is totally different by the time we even are trying to create or have already created the ideas that we wanted to start initially. And so it's kind of like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know.
Right.
And so it's like, you know, you start seeing how um it's kind of like, and I'm gonna get to the question, to the answer. I just have to unpack it. I thought, but I was just thinking about, like, Paul says, when he said, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And it's like you realize your passion for music was just one area. I have a passion for my family. I have a passion for God. I have a passion for being a good business person. And so you have to take off one hat and put on another, and even learn how you can be a better um, leader, a better teacher, a better businessman, you know. And so I started learning about, um, how to organize myself in terms of, well, I'll say this, it's a book called The E Myth, and I recommend it for everybody watching. If you're a musician and are self-employed, you gotta get this book. So it's by this guy Michael Gerber, and I think he's a musician, but he has a good book and information perspective on when you start a business, or when you get in business for yourself, you actually own a job. So the thing about us, we like creativity, we like spontaneity and all of that. But the thing about it, there's three different hats that we wear. The technician, that's the one who does the work, executes doing the work. The second thing is a manager. That's the one who manages the people doing the work, and is all about schedule and doing things in a timely fashion. And then you got the business owner. He's the visionary, but he doesn't do the work, because he's got the manager managing the people who do the work. So the manager reports to the business owner, say, okay, this is done. Now what's next? And so the visionaries, okay, we're going in this direction. This is what we need to do. So we wear all those three hats. And initially we started out attracted to playing, playing the gigs, recording, and doing and teaching or whatever. So that's us physically doing stuff. And so, but that's phase one. The second thing, you got to learn to manage your time. You got to manage, um, uh, where you're gonna, what you need to do in terms of, you know how it is when you're organizing your files. You want to create. a video. You got to edit the video. You got to put it in the right folder. You got to record and put all your stuff in the hard drive. See, that's a lot of work. And so you realize that, man, I don't have all that time like I used to, because the thing about it is, the older I get, the more you realize you gotta only spend time on the things that only you can do, whereas you get the most value out of your time. And so, with that said, he was just saying that you need to create you need to create manuals of how to do the stuff that you've done, so that you can delegate it to somebody else to do it. And so I've been in this mindset, and I've had like assistants for like over 10 years. I've been doing it since 2007. So 20, yeah, I've been doing it for a while, like online business. So I learned about having freelancers do work for you and stuff. So I have a few freelancers from Philippines that's been helping me and doing work. And so I've gotten in a habit to where if it's something that I need done, I'll do a screen record, record a screen capture video. I use Loom, by the way, and Loom is really hip because it's a extension you add to your browser. So I go to my website, or not my website, any website or whatever I'm looking at, and I'll do a screen capture video and give it, get the link and send it over to my assistants. And I do use like a project managing system through Trello. So I'll put stuff in the Trello, and it's how we work through projects to get stuff done. And so make a long story short, you know, because I've gotten into real estate, invested in all of that kind of stuff. So you have to get organized with your time, and you have to delegate things to other people, so you can so you won't bottleneck, because that's what will happen. The more as things expand, the more ideas you get and the things you want to do, you realize that you can't do it all. Yeah. And so my goal, another book reference is Robert Kiyosaki's, it's the 4 quadrant thing, where he talks about, the 4 quadrants. One is being an employee. And then under that, you got self-employed. That's a job. One, you're working for a job. The next one, you own your job. Then the top quadrant on the other side is investor. And then you got business owner. So an investor is one who invests in something like stocks or gold, silver, or real estate, And then you got the fourth one at the bottom. That's where you own a business, like a franchise or something like that. So of course, I got the 3 quadrant. I don't own a franchise or business that just works for me, because I'm technically doing the work for my business. So my goal is really to get something that's just working for me. I got investments, but I want to get to the point where my business can run without me. So that's like a goal for me.
That's a big goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're well on your way to doing that. I mean, from our first conversations, you've been very intentional about working on a lot of these problems, finding good solutions for different problems. One challenge that I have is there's a lot of stuff that I like to do. Different instruments, wearing different hats, a composer hat or, teacher hat, pursuing degrees and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I like that. And then I haven't been to the gym in the last 3 weeks for a certain reason. But I'm a fitness, advocate. So there's a lot of stuff, and then different ideas that I have for doing different kind of video series and things like that. But it's very easy to get to the place where it's like, okay, there's no more time.
Mhm.
There's no more time to do any of this stuff. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep trying to carry all this stuff around, or are you going to, you know, find some better ways to delegate?
Yeah.
Um, so, is there anything else that you'd like to mention? Is there a project that you're working on right now, or maybe tell us, uh, about some stuff that you're doing on your social media? Different things. Maybe your Instagram
Well,
handle or something.
yeah, this this year I started working on putting out some singles, and so the first single I released this year was called "Waiting for You," and I did a collaboration with Eric Pitts, a former student of mine, alto player and keyboard player, and also Jermaine Morgan, who phenomenal bass player and producer. He has a great channel where he does bass lessons and stuff. But anyway, he we worked together to work on "Waiting for You," and that kind of inspired me to continue the process and keep releasing singles. And so I also got this new way of to have people access these singles through my phone. And so you can do textquamon.com. That's TEXTQUAMON. And just text single, and then you'll get a link automatically for you to purchase a direct download of my latest single. So that was the first one I released in February. In March, I released another single entitled Wonder Why. So I created hashtags for these singles. So if you want a wonder why, you would text hashtag wonder why. And so what I did, I ended up making it available for a month or a month at least before it was available on all the streaming platforms just to see what the response would be. And so that way it gives people opportunities to one, support the artist because, when we do streaming, we get like pennies on the dollar. And whereas if you buy it directly, you can get most of that, besides the transfer and fee that comes through PayPal or whatever. Um, but anyway, I've been working on singles, and I got some other musicians that I've been working with who have tracks now, who want to put this stuff out. And so I've been working to create more loops and more instrumentals of my tunes or even new tunes to have available for um, musicians to be able to use them in their productions or to do performances, live streams, or whatever, using some of my tracks. So that's what I've been working on here lately and doing a lot of tracking, to get that done. So my Instagram is my name, Quamon Fowler, Quamon Fowler, Fowler. And my website, same thing, QuamonFowler.com. On my YouTube channel, my personal one is Texas Tenor, TEXAS10ER. But the jazz instruction and the stuff where you'll find even the stuff where we work together is on Jazz Webshed. So that's JAZWEBSHED. And that's where I put up my instructions for jazz and stuff.
All right. Well, that's great, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate how generous you've been with information, and I'm going to put some of this information that you just said, like your Instagram and your website. Um, I'm going to put that stuff down in the description of this video. So anyhow, thank you again, Quamon, and you have a good day.
Okay, appreciate you, Shawn.
All right now.
All right.